How's it going, ladies and Bruces? I'm Bobby Sixkilla and welcome back to Divine Deception. It's been a few days since I've recorded an episode of this because, as you know, as you're probably aware, we've been finishing off Not For Broadcast, which recently just came out in its 1.0 full release. But you're not going to see any gaps because I pre-record so much. So we're jumping into Lav's story again. We've got episode 5 on Lav's side and episode 5 on... I've forgotten that person's name. Side. None of them have locks. I imagine some of them at the end are going to have them. Labs is probably going to get locked off first, I imagine. Let's see. Crossfire. I walked into Panthea's forest far too often. I was getting used to this trick. That wasn't a good sign. But whatever. Can't really be helped. I just scrolled through Kamapa as I made my way to the crime scene. What? Okay, yeah, sure. Sometimes walking in the dead of night with the wind in your hair enlightens the mind or whatever. But sometimes you just need a quick distraction before facing the world. And Kamapa really was addicting. I mean, it was mostly worthless garbage. But there were some interesting gems scattered within the garbage. Gems strewn at just the right frequency to keep my attention. And so down the well I scrolled. I kept just enough attention to keep myself from walking into any trees. And I scrolled as I made my way to the house. But it wasn't that long of a walk. Before I knew it, I saw in my peripheral vision the trees clear up. I must have been in the opening. I looked up and sure enough, I was met with a slightly haunting sight. The old mansion of Veronica Collins burnt to a crisp. Damn. This is the sort of sight you'd see in a legit horror movie. The house is blackened with soot. Various parts of it had fallen off, damage from the fire, too intense. It looked, well, simply put, decrepit, broken, damaged. Damn. I mean, I knew about the fire and all, but I guess I just had to see it with my own eyes to believe. Well, just looking from the outside would only do me so much good. I had a job to do after all. I put my phone in my pocket, I straightened my posture, I put on my war face, and I walked back into the battlefield. Despite the nominal police tape drawn around the area, it took absolutely no effort to enter the crime scene. This was a rather appalling show from the police force. Well, it's not like I actually had any faith in them. Whatever. I made my way to the front door and entered. Inside there were a number of officials walking about, taking photos and examining things. The place was packed, abuzz with chatter. Well, perhaps that played to my advantage. I'd have a bit more time to myself before anybody had noticed that I'd made my way inside. I began looking around the main area. I had only moments, however, before I saw a familiar face begin to approach in the corner of my eye. Hey, are you... I turned around on a swivel. Laverna Smith, private detective extraordinaire. Absolute pleasure to be of service, dear. I held up my hand for a handshake. Kara hesitantly accepted it. Hi. And you're Kara Tucker, correct? Huh? Yes, how do you... I'm a detective, dearest. It is my prerogative to covet knowledge of all types. Say, complete change of subjects, but you were on the restricted floor the same day Olimpo had that info leak, correct? Huh? Yeah. And you worked most closely with Polly Deismer. I assumed as much, for you to show up at the scene like this. Yes. At this point, Kara shook her head from my handshake. I gave her a visible once-over with my eyes. Then I shrugged my shoulders. Well, my employment on that case has been rescinded. And as much as I have natural curiosity, I make it a point to never turn anybody in without a healthy paycheck. Sets a poor precedent, you understand? Right. Thanks? For what? This whole conversation, Kara seemed to be on a dazed back foot. Good. Well, it was already late, and she'd received troubling news, so it wasn't a hard state to put her in. While you're here, may I ask you a couple of questions? Sure. But to be clear, I wasn't here when... Oh, are you talking about the current case? Small things for small minds. Small things? I wouldn't call... Kara caught herself. Okay, what do you want to ask? I turned back to examining the burned remains of the mansion. This used to be the mansion of Veronica Collins, yes? Right. Can you describe how Polly Deismer came to purchase this estate? What the reason for it was? Precisely. I don't know, it's just looking for a place in the forest. It had recently become available. It wasn't as expensive as some of the other things. There wasn't any real thought behind it. Did you help with the purchase? What? You heard me. I mean, I helped with the search somewhat, but obviously Polly had the final say. Naturally. Hey, what are you asking this about this anyways? What's it got to do with anything? Maybe it deals with nothing. But just possibly, It might just do with everything. Huh? You're aware that Veronica Collins' nephew, Maximilian Collins, recently passed away, correct? I think I heard about that, sure. I've been looking into that, among other things. I've taken a recent interest into the belongings of the late, great Veronica Collins. You know, when someone passes away, they catalogue the deceased's belongings. A true measurement of the dead's collective worth. There's only one item among that list that strikes me as curious. Ever the old-fashioned type, the sweet Veronica Collins kept herself a journal. Journals are truly the closest thing we have to an opening of the soul. If you say so. And I do. Okay. Now, I cross-indexed that list with the storage container which kept many of the deceased's belongings. And for the life of me, I could not find that journal. Huh. That's weird. But no disrespect, miss, but why are you blabbering all this to me? Ah, because you see, this mansion of ashes may hold the answers I desire. You see, I have questions. Is this missing journal within these walls, or, contrastingly, did the late Maximilian Collins pilfer that journal from the storage container? And in the case of the latter, is there potentially anything else left in this mansion which could provide insight into what the journal may have told Max? Oh, I see. But sorry to say, I don't think there's anything like what you said here. Speaking personally, I've cleaned a lot of this house, and I haven't found anything like what you described. I'm sorry, but I think it's a dead end. When approached with a dead end, it is my favourite tactic to break through it with the proverbial pickaxe. Ah. And what does that mean exactly? Until we meet again. And with pleasantries exchanged, I turned away and walked over to the police. I have to start with the official investigation soon enough. It was clear I wasn't going to get anything from Kara with this line of questioning. And if there was something to be found, the thorough police sweep would find it. Which officer found it, though, may be worth considering. Whatever. Let's just start with the task at hand. But nobody died here, right? It's just the burnt place. It wasn't long before I found the usual suspects. Baldera and Seth. I made my way over. Oh, Laverna, you made it. Ah, Lav. Hey, Laverna. What a warm reception. Well, it's certainly befitting. When a saviour enters, it's only fitting to praise their name. Man, someone's got a fucking ego on them, huh? Still, such owed respect is rarely shown. When it is, it ought to be celebrated. If only to encourage future similar responses. See, this is why you usually don't get warm receptions. Oh, Seth, don't be like that. Actually, I'm with Seth on this one. Indeed. That greeting by all metrics would be considered exceedingly obnoxious. Oh my, oh my. Aren't we in a grim mood today, huh? No, I understand. I'll act accordingly. Surprisingly, I'm glad to have you, Laverna. I presume you checked in with Pandora? Pandora? She was outside making sure to authorize everyone who has the credentials to enter and turn away everybody else. Right. Of course I checked in with her. She did her job, yeah. Is there a reason this encounter took you a moment to remember? I'm juggling a dozen cases a minute, Chief. My brain is cramped to the brim with important details, alibis, weapons, motives. To maintain all of this, it is necessary that superfluous details get erased as soon as they enter. And this authorization with Pandora is a superfluous detail? Most of my encounters with her are... Burn. After a moment, Ariane gave a solemn nod. Understandable. I rubbed my eyes. You okay? Why wouldn't I be? You were just rubbing your eyes. Yeah, well, when you wake me up at this time of night, I'm going to be a little groggy. Then, should you be here in the first place? I'm fine. Nothing kickstarts the brain like mystery. I assume that's why you're a little late to the scene. You are working with us, right? I presume Miss Vasquez called you over. Actually, I called her over. Oh? Is that right? Yeah, well, I'm sure Baldera would have gotten to it if I had not. She seems pretty insistent involving Miss Smith here in any halfway interesting case. So I decided to just, cut to the chase. Efficient. I admire it. You have my thanks, Seth. It's always a gift to be able to solve the mysteries Panthea has to offer. And the commission kickbacks can't hurt either. Truth is its own reward. Oh? Then should we just stop the payments then? Well, now, let's not get hasty. There's power in precedent. If we just start going willy-nilly with what to pay or not pay, who knows what could happen? Chaos, strife, societal collapse. I noticed Baldera was smiling, but it was a muted smile. And I saw her expression earlier. I was left with a question. Had Seth not intervened, would she have contacted me on her own? Legitimately, I didn't know. And that scared me. It was a bit worrying, the possibility I'd permanently screwed something up with Baldera. That'd be real bad news if that were the case. Had I approached her too early? Was the pitch a mistake? Saying all those things, but no. It had to be done. How she took it, well, that was up to her. But it was definitely right to inform her. And in fact, it's probably better that she seems to be a little cold. I mean, think of the alternative. That she acted normal? Given what I'd laid at her doorstep? That shouldn't have been possible, not for her. If she acted like that, that would have meant she probably already knew. And if she already knew, then she almost certainly had skeletons to hide as well. Conversely, if she did have things to hide, would she really push away someone who was actively investigating mysteries? You'd think you'd want to get closer. No, this was a good thing. That's what I had to keep telling myself, at least. Now then, to business. I'm not brought here for my witty banter, as desirable a bonus as that may be. It isn't. I'm here for one thing and one thing only, to discover crimes, to solve mysteries, to drag the overbearing cart of the world inches closer towards the ideal city of justice, one step at a time. We get it. But frankly, I'm a little surprised that you're brought here for this case. Oh? Do not mistake me, it is most certainly an important case, high profile. But there's not much mystery to solve, and the facts at hand seem incredibly apparent. It's a job for forensics, not a private eye. Ha! I should be the judge of that. The most mundane of cases can hide surprising depths. If you say so. Very well then. Mr. Johnson, care to give a summary of the events that have transpired? Sure. Not a lot to summarize this time, but what the hell. So, not that long ago, we got an emergency distress call, and it came from one Polly Deisman. It was hard to make him out, but he was talking very quickly in a nervous manner. There were the obvious sounds of chaos in the background. It was easy to piece the situation together. Polly's rushed explanation was confusing, but basically it said that there was a madman in the house that needed to be stopped. Get here as soon as possible. So we did. We traced the call to this house in the forest and made our way right here. Apparently, very shortly after the call to us, a call was placed to the local fire department. A fire had begun to rage, presumably in connection with the incident. It was a little difficult to get to the house being in the forest and all. That's the risk you take for living here. You've got to know that when you buy a house here. Rather cold of you, Ms. Vasquez. You know, I think it is. Well, despite that, we were able to get here. The fire department handled the situation as best they could. That's a vague way of phrasing things. Huh? You're not really telling me what's important. Did they do a good job or a bad job? I can't tell from the results. It depends on how bad the fire was. And how is this important? I don't yet know. You don't know a Chekhov's gun is important until it's fired. You do if you're observant. Well, naturally, us detectives can sense future plot developments in media a mile away. It's just an extension of logical reasoning. I get surprised by plot developments? Maybe keep that to yourself, Baldera. Your boss is right there. Yeah, right, like the chief's gonna penalize me because I can't predict the end of a movie. Are you hearing what she's saying? I am. And I'm hearing what you're saying. Ms. Vasquez, it seems like you need to work on your deductive reasoning. Seriously? Guys, feels like maybe we're definitely off track here. Did the fire department do a good job or a bad job? I don't know. Decent. They did a decent job? I see. Okay, well, since then we've been investigating around the house, looking for evidence of exactly what went down. Turns out despite the fire and all, the place really didn't take that much damage. We found plenty of evidence. Seth walked us over to a table, on top of which a variety of evidence pieces were gathered in an organised manner. Right, here's a pistol. Found it under that burnt couch right there. Forensics will have a field day with that. This pistol's owner? According from a statement from Mr. Deismer, it was the assailant's pistol. We also got a handful of bullet shells. Oh, and this pan thingy has some bullet impacts on it. Probably some struggle there, huh? In my line of work, bullets do tend to indicate a struggle. Be it physical or emotional, that depends on the specific circumstance. Well, okay, there's also these. Metal canisters. Left behind. They're the grenades. Metal canisters? Yeah, the way Mr. Deisman tells it, apparently they were like mini grenades? But I'm telling you, I haven't seen anything that looks like this. Are you a grenade expert, Mr. Johnson? Me? No. Then I would ask why you're speculating on such things. Sorry, ma'am. For all we know, these are very common devices. Let us not begin to make wild assumptions. Right. The Congress dances, but does not progress. Excuse me? Nothing, ma'am. It appears I'd miscalculated who could hear my mumbling. Whatever they are, we'll be doing tests on them. Maybe that'll turn something up. And of course, Valdera slapped a small black plastic box with a removable top. This is the money. And since this is the money, Miss Vasquez, please treat it with a bit more respect. Right. Sorry, Chief. But yeah, this is a collection of bits of forensic evidence we found. Valdera opened up the box to show a small pile of tiny plastic baggies, each with a single hair inside. Fire did a number on stuff. Plus, you know, it's a house. Likely a lot of guests. But we're hoping one of these runs up something useful. We cannot be sure though. It's likely the assassin did not leave any hairs behind. Assassin. Assassin, why are you all using this word? The way you describe it, Polly was reporting in a scuffle. Oh, right. Our bad, Lav. We should have said. Apparently Polly thinks the person who broke in came to kill him. My oh my, that's quite an accusation to levy. Does he have any proof of this? His testimony's been a little, all over the place. So from what he's just said, an unknown officer came in and whispered something to Chief of Police Ariane. She nodded and dismissed them. They were not able to locate them. Damn. What is that about? Oh, the moment us police began to show up, we saw a figure fleeing the house into the forest. Officers were dispatched after the mysterious figure, but apparently there was too much of a lead. Too much of a lead? You're content to let the killer get away just like that? It's not like that, Laverna. Indeed, according to Mr. Deismer, the figure spotted fleeing was an acquaintance of his, staying at the house during the time of the incident. He says he doesn't know why they hightailed it. Awfully suspicious if you ask me. I agree. I'd also like to see this individual. Probably doesn't matter. I got 3 blank looks. You heard me. Anyway, I'd like to speak with the victim himself. Your third-hand accounts are vague and poorly explained. Hey, I'd like to hear him explain the situation. A sensible enough approach. I don't see an issue with it. I guess. It's settled then. Laverna, feel free to interrogate Mr. Deismer as you see fit. He is currently residing in the neighbouring room. Ariane pointed out to exactly where Polly currently was. There's a lot to do, and we've already heard his testimony, so we won't be joining you. I trust you can handle yourself in front of the victim appropriately. I'll have you know I have superb bedside manner. If you say so. I wanted to engage in the typical tit-for-tat chatter, but for whatever reason I just felt exhausted. Keeping up my persona to the extent that I had already was more energy than I felt like I had in me. So instead I just gave a small grateful nod and turned to the door. With confidence I strode in, and I was met with an all too familiar face. Polly Deismer. Oh, you. Polly's face morphed with confusion. I know you, right? You remembered. How flattering. And here I was thinking you were too drunk to remember any of the details of our encounter. Instantly the confusion on Polly's face turned to embarrassment. Well, I don't, sorry, I don't remember our meeting that well. I figured as much. Don't worry, that much is expected. We did not speak for long, and not of anything with much substance. Laverna Smith, private investigator. I had out my hand. Polly reciprocated with a shake. Polly Deismer, employee at Olimpo. Oh, but you probably already knew that. I already know that? How presumptuous, Mr. Deismer. Arrogance is not a flattering look on you. Oh? No, sorry, I just thought, you know, since you already said you knew me and you were investigating. Well, I do already know that. I know most things. That's my job, Mr. Deismer. I know things. I'm knowledgeable. I know who you are, I know where you work. And I know you'd assume I already knew that, regardless of whether or not I was a private investigator. Polly didn't have a response to that. He just sheepishly looked down, awkward. It was always a good policy to keep suspects on the defense, but considering everything, this policy needed to be doubly in effect with Polly. Relax, Polly. Remember, I'm here on your side. Yeah, right. That is, if the truth is on your side. What? What does that mean? Absolutely nothing. Now, as I understand it, you were nearly killed tonight. Yeah. My, how troubling. You have my sympathies. I can't imagine what that experience must be like. Oh, well, thank you. Honestly, I'm more in shock than anything else. But Mr. Deismer, it strikes me that people don't go setting other people's houses on fire haphazardly. Usually there's a motive when events like this occur. Not always. Sometimes it's just a random act of violence. Rarely. Extremely rarely. Surprising as it may be for you to hear, but I don't believe you're the exception to the rule, at least not in this case. Do you know who could have a motive to attack you like this? A motive? To attack me? No, I can't really think of anything. Mr. Deismer, you, the son of the infamous Odin Deismer, centre of numerous controversies, stakeholder in Olimpo, cannot fathom a single possibility as to why someone may wish to bring you harm? Is that the story you expect me to believe? You know, it's complicated. It's quite simple, Mr. Deismer. A crime has been committed, and the criminal must be brought to justice. If you cannot provide any likely motive, then I'll have to do the work of scrounging up what the motive might be. Surely, being the gentleman that you are, you would do me the favour of sparing me such laborious work. I mean, I have been trying to raise up the ranks in the Olympo company. It's possible some of the other shareholders didn't look too kindly on that. I see. So then is it your belief that this attack stems from your business rivals threatened by your status? I mean, if I had to guess... You can ask me anything else. Any follow-ups? Do not rush, genius. The cogs turn at a predetermined rate. Sorry. It's all a mess now. Very well, we can just proceed. You know what? Let us start at the beginning. Could you describe the incident in as much detail as you can from the beginning? Yes, I can do that. Okay, so... Polly took a moment to compose himself, then he began to speak. It was a night like any other. The dark skyline gave no indication of what would soon transpire. The dramatic narration is not necessary, but heavily appreciated. Thanks. I thought it'd add to it. So like most nights, I go to bed pretty late. I fall asleep, nothing's indicated that things are weird. And then, in the middle of the night, I hear a scuffle. A scuffle? Yeah, a commotion, a fracas, a brouhaha. It's coming from outside my room, so I rush into the hallway and I see a mysterious figure in a hoodie struggling with my friend. My friend had a habit of staying late, and I guess it was just luck that they happened to stumble across the intruder. Wait, hold up, your friend? I assumed this figure that the cops spotted fleeing in the scene not too long ago. Who's the friend? What are they doing here? Oh, it's... All of a sudden, Polly got fidgety. It took me a second to process the likely reason for this. Polly, who's the friend? Oh, just, you know, Vels. Vels? Yep, Vels. Does this Vels have a last name? Any physical characteristics? I don't happen to know Vels' last name, but Vels wears a red hoodie, has these lightning arm tattoos. To be honest, Vels likes to play things close to the chest, and that's why Vels fled from the scene. You don't find that suspicious? Why would I find that suspicious? Let me rephrase. I find that suspicious. Yeah, well, what's it to you? Look, Vels isn't on trial here. I'm the victim here, you should be on my side. I am on your side. I'm trying to assess all possible threats. But fine, I'll drop the matter. Though for what it's worth, I'm convinced that people outside are going to have a lot more questions for you on this front, so I'd get your story straight. Me though, I'm only interested in what I'm interested in. Whatever reason this Vels has to stay out of the police eye, none of my business. So Vels and the hooded man were fighting. Wait, Vels also wears a hoodie, right? Yeah, Vels wears a red one, the other guy was wearing a grey one. Fine. So after seeing me, the grey hoodie guy goes crazy, tries to shoot me. Luckily I protect myself. By blocking the bullets with a nearby object? Yes, exactly. But the crime scene would indicate that this little scenario played out not on the second floor hallway, but in the main area of the first floor. Oh right, yes, the fight kind of progressed down the stairs at some point. Why was Polly distorting the truth in such minor ways? I can only conclude that it was an attempt to hide a more important detail. He was accidentally scrambling up the whole story. The fight proceeded, but I stayed out of it mostly. I was able to place the call to the police. Then I threatened the man in the grey hoodie, told him to get away while he still could. We exchanged some brief words, but eventually the guy saw reason. He hightailed it out of here, but not before throwing a flashbang and an incendiary grenade. I called the fire department. Tried to handle things the best I could, but, well, you can sort of see how that all played out. And that's pretty much it. That right? Yep. Look, Laverna, believe me, I'm glad to have your presence, but I don't exactly think there's much mystery to be solved here. Someone tried to kill me, they got away. Oh well. You just elucidated the exact mystery. Somebody tried to kill you, they got away. But no, not oh well. More like, oh no, we have to catch them. Isn't that the natural reaction? Duh. In that case, why are you saying oh well? I was just sort of given the sentiment because, I mean, at this point it's out of my hands, right? Either there's forensic evidence that can track the bastard down or not. Roll of the dice. I mean, from the way the guy moved, I have to assume he's a professional. Which means just check it with people with motives for their alibis as a dead one. Don't be so quick to dismiss tried and true methods of detecting. There is still much within your power to change. For instance, you could supply me with a description of the culprit. His build, his facial structure, stuff like that. I guess. I don't know how much help it would be, it was pretty hectic. Understandable. Just speak to the events to the best of your recollection. Sure. So, how high would you describe the assailant? What was his build? Normal? Normal? What's normal? I don't know. Okay, how about we start something more basic? What about the colour of his hair? I couldn't see his hair well. Like I said, he had a hoodie. Oh, and a face mask too. That also obstructed things. Alright, but still, you should be able to at least make out his hair colour. Yeah, I don't know, Laverna, it was pretty hectic. I don't think I got a good look at his hair. Eye colour? You expect me to remember something like that when my life's at stake? What was his voice like? I know, it was muffled. Face mask, remember? Oh, face mask's barely muffled voice. And you said you had a short conversation with him. I mean, yeah, okay, I heard some of his voice. But I don't know how I'd describe it. And how do I know if it's even accurate? You know, people can speak in very different tones. You could hear 5 voices and not know they're all coming from the same talented voice artist. Are you seriously suggesting that this assassin is a voice artist? I'm saying, if I was going to someone's house to kill them, I'd probably try to disguise my voice somewhat. Look, I just don't want to give misleading information. You know, I read a thing that said that most people primarily identify others based on the voice they hear. What was Polly doing? I know he saw more of this assassin than this. This wasn't ignorance. This is deliberately obscuring the truth. Which led me to one big question. Why? What on earth was he doing? This man had broken into his house, tried to kill him. What was his angle here? The earlier stuff I got. This? I need to push on this. Mr. Deismer, I'm sad that you're not being honest with me. Not honest? What do you mean? What am I not being honest about? You had a protracted struggle with a man who tried to kill you. I'll be blunt. I don't believe you could have possibly seen as little as you claim to have seen. I don't know what to say. It was traumatic. It was hours ago. If there was time to recall details, now would be it. I've never been a detail-oriented person, okay? Ask literally anybody who knows me. Why aren't you describing the assailant in more detail? Why are you stifling this investigation? Ha! Stifling this investigation? Why would I do that? I don't know, that's what I asked you. Polly Deismer, an attempt has been made at your life. I'm asking for your information that would help locate the person who tried to end it. You are not cooperating. Why? I'm telling you what I remember. So, up until now it's been nice enough to only include statements in your deductions that should actually be selected, but sorry to say, I can't always play gatekeeper. Sometimes irrelevant thoughts will get in, or hell, useful thoughts that won't fit in a deduction. Whoopsies. Hey look, it's not really a big deal. Use all your conjunctions, pair them with statements and make a valid deduction. Nothing's changed, you just gotta be a bit more discerning. And you're already discerning, so you're gonna discern the hell out of those statements. Go on, get discerning. I'll bring you back as we figure this out, because it's annoying, and I accidentally click the skip button quite regularly. So we can't change this one, Polly can't give the details about this assassin. And what are the other options? He was in close proximity to the assassin, he knows the assassin, there was no assassin, Polly is lying, a third party was seen fleeing from the scene. And what are our conjunctions? Because, but, and therefore. Can't give detailed. Because he knows the assassin? Because... No. Can we go back? But... Polly can't give details about the assassin, but he was in close proximity to the assassin. Therefore, Polly is lying because he knows the assassin. That was easy enough, right? That's correct, right? It's gotta be. Because he knows the assassin. I mean, we already know that's true. It's his brother. You recognize the assassin. What? That's the only thing that makes sense. Maybe you didn't in the moment, but right now you clearly know who tried to kill you. What? That is, I mean, absolutely absurd. What sort of detective are you? The smart kind. The kind that realizes that if this hired killer was a hired killer out for you, you'd have no trouble describing it. I mean, even if you thought you knew who might have put a hit out for you and just wanted to protect them. A thoroughly weird situation, but let's just imagine it. You could still describe the assassin they hired pretty effortlessly. That's no skin off your back. No, the only reason you'd skimp on the details of the attacker is if you specifically recognized your attacker and didn't want them identified by the police. That is, I mean, I didn't even know what to say. No need. I can go from here. So with this in mind, should we assume your whole story is fabricated? No, I don't think that's likely. It was already too weird and disjointed. If you were making something up, it'd be a lot cleaner. Somebody like you, somebody that you know, broke into your house, just dressed in a grey hoodie with the intent to murder you, and yet you're not turning on them. Why? Some sort of loyalty. For you to cover for someone who tried to kill you, you must be extremely close. Seriously? But no, that doesn't make any sense. Exactly. If somebody very close to you who tried to kill you, you'd feel betrayed. Yeah, you'd feel outraged. Take no offense to this, Mr. Deisman, but you strike me as a largely emotional person. Someone who would be driven by short-term impulses, not thinking about the larger picture. If somebody that you trusted snuck into your house and tried to murder you, you'd be outraged. You'd be fuming. I resent that description. Resentment noted. But I don't care if you resent the description. I care if you object to it. I mean, if not objecting to it will get you to realize how dumb you're being right now, then fine, you got me. I'm dumb in emotion. If one of my friends tried to kill me, I'd say, obviously. So can you drop this? Drop this. Mr. Deisman, now things are interesting. The assassin. This is somebody you feel close enough to that you recognize them despite everything. Somebody that you go as far as lying to the police to prevent them from being found out. And yet, somebody that you wouldn't be outraged at for trying to murder you. Somebody that you don't necessarily trust. And of course, it'd have to be someone who would actually plausibly do something like this. It could be someone with too much to lose. Nobody high on the social pecking order, because sneaking into your house to kill you themselves isn't the style of the elite. It's beneath them. It's unnecessary. So then, a killer is somebody you know and feel like you have to protect, but somebody you're not close with, you don't trust. And on top of all that, this person isn't wealthy, which usually wouldn't be an indicator of much considering your societal class, actually enough. Polly was starting to get annoyed. You're totally off base, Miss Smith. Do you really think that I would... Polly was interrupted by the sound of the door opening. I thought I was told that I'd have... My complaint was stopped in its tracks when I actually turned around to see you open the door. Well, isn't this an interesting development? Right in the doorframe stood Art Deisman, Polly's brother. Behind him stood Kara, looking less than enthused. For a moment, Art and Polly just looked at each other. Despite no words being exchanged, I could feel an intensity in the air. Maybe I was just imagining things. Though by the look on Kara's face, I wasn't the only one who felt it. Then Art took a step forward, then another, and all of a sudden Art was hugging Polly tightly. Polly was, perhaps understandably, taken a bit aback by this development. He was unsure how to respond. Acts of brotherly love like this were likely uncommon. Still, Polly knew to play along. With a somewhat strained look on his face, Polly hugged Art back. The two embraced for a somewhat uncomfortable period of time, and then finally Art let go. Polly, thank goodness you're alright. Are you? Are you hurt at all? No, not really. What are you doing here? I heard the news. Grapevines and whatnot. You were attacked, right? Uh-huh. And again, I'm not sure what you're doing here. Polly, I know our relationship has been, well, somewhat strained, but above all else, you are my brother. If I hear that someone has made an attempt on your life, well, it's only natural that I'd come and see what had happened. Lord knows Odin won't be visiting. Yeah, Dad's never been the touchy-feely type. Maybe if I'd actually killed my attacker instead of just fending him off, I would have gotten some of his respect. Even still, I'm sure he's concerned. I mean, Jesus, Polly, an assassin? How dreadful. When I heard he's the one who sent the fucking guy. When I heard your life had come into jeopardy, well, I just dropped everything and came here to see you. It was so troubling to hear of this incident. That right? Polly's expression hardened. Once again, a minor stare down occurred. Polly's disdainful look was apparent, but Art refused to flinch. Seeing the two go back and forth like this, well, for a lack of a better word, it was captivating. Maybe that was a weird reaction, but Kara was also in the room and she was equally silent. I didn't take her for the type to stand by idly and wordless. And perhaps in a second too long, Art began his response. Obviously. How else would I react? Oh, I don't know. Here I was thinking you'd be throwing a minor party, hearing that I was in danger. You know, Polly, I realize you're in shock, but there are some jokes that are simply not in good taste. I wasn't joking. Seriously? Polly, who do you take me for? Even with our differences, our fights, our brother can't be happy with the death of another brother. You know, I thought that too. Another beat. Then Art turned to me. Miss Smith, do I have that right? Excellent memory, Art. Pleasure to see you at the scene. Our relationship may not have been entirely pleasant, but but our last meeting proved your capabilities. I am happy to see that such good hands are on my brother's case. Mr. Deismer, you are aware that Panthea's police force is currently providing their full attention to this case? Yes, sure. But, well, between you and me, the police force, they're okay. I see what you mean. Of course, I'm grateful for their services, unquestionably. But it's good to have as many sets of eyes on something like this as possible. A single added eye can make a dimension of difference. Yes, 3D movies, very clever. So do you have any theories? Any idea who could have done this? It's early stages, lots of possibilities to consider. Right. Yes, considering Polly's storied past, well, no doubt you'll have your hands full with suspects. A lot of people would like to do my brother in. What the hell's that supposed to mean? Finally, Kara decided to start speaking. Oh, come on, Kara. Surely you know what my brother's like. Yeah, I do. And I know that he doesn't have the lists of people who want to kill him. Is that your opinion? You know, maybe they came after me to get at you, Art. Hurt the people closest to your target. Why, this is an interesting theory, right? I mean, if we're talking about people who have a lot of enemies, you fit the bill a lot better. And a lot of your enemies would be more willing to go to the tactics like this, huh? Really, Polly? We're going there? Isn't that beneath you? Yeah, well, I guess we're both reaching new lows. You're crazy if you think this even gets close to your lowest point. And I'm really starting to resent your implications. That right? Then maybe don't give those implications ground, huh? Ground? Wait. Was at this point Art turned to look at me. Polly and Kara quickly followed suit. Before I knew it, all three were giving me a rather pointed stare. I could pick up on social cues, as much as I'd like to hear this conversation. Fine. What? Perhaps surprisingly, I can read the mood. And one of my least favourable pastimes is staying in rooms in which I am not wanted. I think I've heard what I need regarding the crime from Polly. I turned directly to Polly. Rest assured, Mr. Deismer, your would-be assassin will be brought to justice, no matter who would prefer otherwise. Right, thanks. I began to walk over to the door. However, before I reached it, I paused in my tracks. Oh, and one other thing. The actual cops are far from over with any of you. So go on, have your conversation, but I would get your stories straight. Especially that part about Val's Polly. I get a feeling Seth is going to be real pushy about that. So, you know, mind yourselves. Before I could see their reactions, I continued out the door, back to the main area of the house. Ariane, Seth, and Baldera were still standing around discussing things. On the nearby counter was the collected evidence. I walked over to the group. Miss Smith, did you get what you wanted? Oh, I got more than just what I wanted. That's good. Right? Sounds good. I mean, it's gotta be good, right? She'd be saying it differently if it wasn't. This is Laverna, Baldera. I don't think we can use that as an indicator. It is good, Seth. Thanks for asking. More to the point, I'd imagine you let Art Deismer into the house. Of course. Yes, well, if I were you, I'd go and join Art and Polly. The conversation seems fruitful. Ariane looked hesitantly at Seth and Baldera, and then she nodded. Very well. She moved over to the room. Seth followed in her stead. Baldera, however, stayed. Damn it, what was this? Not interested in those affairs, Baldera. I'll join up with the others in a minute. Baldera looked down. It looked like she was struggling with her words. That was actually a good sign, right? I want to say something to you. I looked over to the door. Art and Polly would probably cause a lengthy scene. Well then, speech is in your capability, is it not? Surprisingly, this actually elicited a small chuckle from Baldera. Don't change, Lev. Others might want you to, but you really shouldn't. I don't intend to. Good. You're good as is. And that includes your decisions. Oh? This was about... I want to talk about what we talked about last time. And I wanted to say... I'm sorry. Huh? You're sorry? Right. I acted cold then. I've been acting cold since, and that's not fair. You were just looking out for me. You thought I could handle the truth. And it turns out... I don't know if I can. Hesitation is natural, Baldera. I'd be more concerned if you had not. But if you're referring to it as the truth, then I think you can handle it. Let me be clear, your accusations relied heavily on circumstantial evidence. They were vague, unfocused. Nothing's in reality. I didn't make accusations, I gave facts. Aha. Look, maybe you're right. Maybe you're wrong. I'll get to the bottom of all that, one way or the other. But regardless, I shouldn't blame you for asking questions. We're both detectives. Asking questions should be our bread and butter. I merely nodded. Apology accepted. Oh, also, to be clear, I didn't just call you over to apologize. You didn't? No, not really. I came to show you this. Baldera pulled something out of her pocket. It was Phone? What's that? I found it hidden in a shell. A shell? Yeah, a shell. I think it was part of an art piece or something. Anyway, it was tucked away pretty snugly. But since the shell was chipped at some point along the way, the phone wasn't all that hidden. Whose phone is it? I mean, I'd imagine it's Polly's. But I can't be sure. Okay. And you're showing this to me because... Baldura looked around to make sure nobody was watching. Then she put the phone in my hand. I want you to hold on to this for me. To look into this for me. Me? Look into this? The Dismals. I've always found them fishy. Anyone with half a brain would. Normally I put this with the evidence. We have a digital forensics team crack it open. But with the concerns you've raised, I can fill in the gaps. Baldura was concerned that her own police force couldn't be trusted not to tamper with the evidence. Perfect. Telling Baldura about her co-workers is absolutely the right choice. It was already starting to pay off. Okay. Thank you for trusting me with this, Baldura. I know that I will make sure the truth comes to light. Please do. Lord knows I'm breaking so many protocols with this. I just don't want my deviance to be for nothing. It won't be. Trust me. Also, word of warning, the phone looks to be locked. I don't know what to do about that. Don't worry. Funnily enough, I think I know somebody who can handle stuff like that. Is that somebody you can trust? Grand scheme of things, I guess. Okay then. I'm gonna go catch up with the others. I spent too long just talking with you, then might get suspicious. Or worse, I'll be lectured for being a slacker. Smart thinking. Baldura took a few steps toward the door the others were in. Then she looked back to me. You coming? I shook my head. You all were right. There isn't a mystery to be solved. This is a job for boring forensic officers, not a bona fide truth seeker such as myself. You sure? It'd be more boring without you. And it'll be more boring without me elsewhere. Sorry, but simply put, I won't be of any use deployed here. Tell the chief I'm dismissing myself from this investigation. Baldura shrugged his shoulders, a little perplexed, but not in the mood to fight it. If you say so. And like that, Baldura walked away. And there I was, alone. For a single glorious moment I was alone. Finally. I'd be leaving the scene soon enough. Job more than done. But first there was a matter that needed to be handled. I walked over to the counter with all the evidence lined up. I stood right above the box collecting hair samples, and then with a single gloved hand I opened the box lid. Inside the box was filled with a bunch of tiny plastic bags, each with a hair or two carefully placed inside. It was a cavalcade of evidence. I could undoubtedly say a lot about everybody who's been in this house. For people who didn't want that information to be discovered, it was natural what they'd do. And so my next move was obvious. I began stuffing the plastic bags in my pocket. 5 or 6 at a time, I moved them from the box to my pocket. I was a little nervous if I'd be able to take them all. But lo and behold, in a matter of seconds, I completely emptied the box. Good. I put the box's lid back on, and then without a moment's hesitation, I walked out the front door. That's because Laverna is Vels, they're the same person. You know what would have been funny? If Pandora was in charge of that evidence box. Because then it would have been, you know, Pandora's... You get it, it's a good joke. You know what? Fuck it. I'm retconning it. Pandora owned the evidence box. She donated it to the Force like years ago. Who cares if it's not real? It's not like it affects anything. Oh, sorry. Sorry for the spoilers. Sorry I spoiled the fact that who owned the evidence box initially isn't going to be some groundbreaking piece of mystery narrative. I think you might be projecting right now. I didn't think that was a spoiler. I don't know. I guess I'm just touchy about the whole spoiler subject. You see, I have this friend. Really annoying dude. Always with the nitpicks and lectures, but he's handy with tech shit, so I keep him around. He says I have a real problem with spoiling things for him. What can I say? I'm a chatty Cathy. I like to talk. I just think people have different definitions of spoilers. I'm a real in it for the journey gal. My friend, on the other hand, why, he prefers to go into movies without even watching the trailer if he can help it. What say you? What's your take on it? I try not to watch anything first either, to be honest. Like, if someone spoils something for me, I'm not gonna, like, unfriend them or whatever, or never talk to them again or something. I don't really care that much, but I don't watch trailers and shit, generally. Apart from, like for video games, I watch gameplay trailers and stuff, I guess. When we do our weekly, monthly thing. Oh shit, I need to do that. We need to do our monthly thing. A monthly thing, but, you know, I generally don't watch that much. I prefer not to be spoiled, but it's not the end of the world, that one. Reasonable take. I hate it. Reasonable takes are the worst. Hold some conviction, damn it. I just don't care that much about stuff, okay? Fuck, calm down. Anyway, I define spoilers as actual, like, reveals. a random plot detail from early on isn't a spoiler. And even if it was, it shouldn't matter. You know, science backs me up on this one. Studies show that going into a work knowing a spoiler actually tends to increase enjoyment. Crazy, right? It's the bomb under the table effect, I suppose. Almost makes you wonder why the creators even bothered to make the twist secret in the first place if knowing them will improve the experience. Almost. Actually, why, I've just had an awful idea. Do you want to hear a spoiler? For this story right now, you want me to spoil something for you? No. Wow, dismissed right out of pocket. How rude. But hey, it's your right. Don't say I didn't offer. Go on, blind as ever. See where that gets you. I'm quite happy to be blind, thank you. We can do 7 right away. We've got a gold key and we've got nowhere to use it at this stage, I don't think. Interesting. Alright, well, we'll wrap this one up here and we'll continue with the Laverna's story in the next one until we are stopped. And then we'll move back to this one, who I've forgotten who the person's name is. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for getting out with me and I'll see you in the next one.